There is a voice in your head. You know the one. It shows up when you are about to do something that matters. When you are about to speak in a room full of people. When you are about to try something new. When you look in the mirror on a difficult day. When you get close to something you actually want. And it says the same things it has always said. You are not good enough. You are going to fail. Who do you think you are? People are going to see through you. You do not deserve this. You have heard this voice so many times, for so long, that you have made a very natural and very devastating mistake. You have assumed it is yours. You have assumed it is the truth about you, a reliable internal narrator accurately reporting your actual value and your actual limitations. It is not. That voice was installed. It came from outside you before you were old enough to question it. And every day you let it run unchallenged, you are living someone else's assessment of your worth as though it were your own. By the end of this video you will know exactly where that voice came from, why it stayed, and how to finally stop letting it make decisions about your life. The inner critic does not arrive fully formed. It is built slowly, across years of early experience, from the specific words, tones, reactions, and silences of the people who raised you and the environments that shaped you. Every time a parent expressed disappointment in a way that landed as you are a disappointment rather than this behavior disappointed me, a brick was laid. Every time a teacher's criticism landed not as this work needs improvement but as you are not capable, another brick. Every time you were compared unfavorably to a sibling, a classmate, a standard you could not meet, another brick. Every time you were laughed at, dismissed, overlooked, or told that what you felt was too much or what you wanted was unrealistic, another brick. None of the people who laid these bricks necessarily intended to build what they built. Most of them were simply passing on the same voice that was installed in them. But intention does not determine impact. And the voice that resulted from all those bricks, the one that tells you that you are not smart enough, not attractive enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough, is not a truth about you. It is an accumulation of other people's limitations, fears, and unprocessed wounds that got deposited into your developing mind before you had any way to evaluate whether they were accurate. You did not choose this voice. You inherited it. And you have been living as though it is your own ever since. The most disorienting thing about the inner critic is how convincingly it sounds like your own thoughts. Unlike a memory of someone criticizing you, which you can identify as coming from outside, the inner critic speaks in first person. It uses your voice. It references your specific history, your specific fears, your specific failures. It knows exactly which insecurities to press and exactly when to press them. This is not a coincidence. The inner critic was built from your experience, it knows your weak points because it was constructed from them. And over time, through years of repetition, the voice has been so thoroughly internalized that the distinction between the critic and the self has completely collapsed. You cannot hear the difference between your authentic assessment of a situation and the critic's automated attack because they sound identical. This is why simply being told to be more confident, to believe in yourself, to think positively, does not work. Because you are not choosing to think negatively. You are not deliberately undermining yourself. You genuinely cannot tell, in the moment, that the voice saying you are going to fail is not your own honest prediction. It sounds like self-knowledge. It feels like realism. It presents itself as the part of you that is being honest while everyone else is just being kind. And that disguise, the critic dressed as your own wise and honest inner voice, is what makes it so devastatingly effective and so extraordinarily difficult to dismantle. The inner critic does not just make you feel bad. It actively shapes the decisions you make, the risks you take, the life you build. And it does this not through a single dramatic intervention but through thousands of small invisible ones, each one individually deniable, cumulatively devastating. It makes you hesitate at the moment of action, just long enough for the opportunity to pass or for someone else to take it. It makes you over-prepare, over-explain, over-apologize, not because the situation requires it but because the anxiety it generates demands relief. It makes you shrink in rooms where you should take up space. It makes you stay in situations that are too small for you because the critic has convinced you that you will not survive what is beyond them. It makes you sabotage relationships, opportunities, and creative work that are going well, because the critic cannot tolerate the exposure of being seen to want something and then fail to get it. It is easier, the critic has learned, to destroy the thing yourself before it can be taken from you. And perhaps most insidiously, it makes you believe that the life you are living, smaller and safer and less than what you actually want, is simply a realistic response to who you actually are. Rather than what it really is, a life lived inside the parameters set by a voice that was never telling you the truth. Making the inner critic stop does not mean silencing it permanently. That is not a realistic or even desirable goal. What it means is changing your relationship to it so that it loses its authority over your decisions and your sense of self. The first step is the most important and the most counterintuitive: stop fighting it. When you fight the inner critic, when you try to argue with it or suppress it or drown it out, you give it exactly the attention and energy it feeds on. The critic grows stronger when it is wrestled with. It shrinks when it is witnessed. The practice is this: when the critic speaks, instead of engaging with it or collapsing under it, you simply notice it. You name what is happening. There is the critic. It is doing the thing it always does. You do not have to believe it just because you heard it. The second step is to identify whose voice it actually is. Many people, when they sit with the critic carefully, recognize that it sounds like a specific person from their past. A parent. A teacher. A sibling. An early relationship. Naming the origin does not make the voice disappear, but it does make it less yours. It becomes something that was done to you rather than a truth about you. And that shift in perspective, small as it sounds, begins to loosen the grip. The third step, and the one that actually rewires the pattern over time, is deliberately acting against the critic's instructions. Not once, in a grand gesture of defiance, but repeatedly, in small consistent steps. Every time you act despite the critic's objection and the catastrophe it predicted does not materialize, you are building evidence. And evidence, accumulated over time, is the only thing that actually changes what the nervous system believes. The goal is not simply to silence the critic. The goal is to build something stronger alongside it, a voice that is genuinely yours, grounded in reality, capable of seeing you accurately rather than through the distorting lens of old wounds and inherited limitations. Building this counter-voice is not a matter of positive affirmations, of repeating things you do not believe until somehow you start to believe them. It is a matter of building an accurate and honest record of your actual experience. What have you done that was hard? What have you survived that you did not think you would? What have you built, created, navigated, shown up for, gotten through that the critic said you could not? These are not small things. They are the actual evidence of who you are, evidence that the critic has been systematically ignoring or dismissing while curating only the failures. Building the counter-voice means becoming a fair witness to yourself. Not a cheerleader, not someone who pretends the failures did not happen or the limitations do not exist. But a fair witness. Someone who counts the whole record. Someone who applies to themselves the same reasonable and compassionate standard they would apply to a person they love. Because here is the truth that the critic has been working very hard to obscure: you have been applying a standard to yourself that you would never apply to another person. You would not speak to someone you loved the way your inner critic speaks to you. And the moment you genuinely internalize that, not just understand it intellectually but feel it, the critic's authority begins to collapse. The voice that tells you that you are not enough has been speaking for a very long time. It has shaped decisions you made, risks you did not take, a version of your life that has been lived inside parameters it set. But it was never telling you the truth. It was telling you what someone else believed, or feared, or needed you to believe about yourself. And you, at an age when you had no choice, absorbed it as fact. You are not that age anymore. You have a choice now that you did not have then. Not the choice to silence the voice instantly, that is not how this works. But the choice to stop treating it as the final authority on who you are and what you are capable of. The choice to start building the counter-evidence. The choice to act, once, against its instructions, and then to notice that you survived. And then to do it again. If this video helped you see that voice differently, subscribe right now. Every single week we go this deep into the psychology of what makes us human. The things most people feel but nobody explains honestly. Drop a comment below and tell me, what does your inner critic say most often? Just write it down. Because naming it out loud, even in a comment, begins to take its power away. And next week, we are going into something that will fundamentally change how you understand your own emotions. The psychology of why you feel things so deeply when others seem unbothered, and why that sensitivity is not your weakness. It is your most underestimated strength. You do not want to miss it. See you there.